I have a character that can move and jump. What I'm going to attempt to do in this video is I just want to add a little effect for when the character lands, that there's like a splash effect. So I'm going to use the Unity effects. First, I'm going to create an effect. So let me create an empty game object to attach an effect to, and I'll just call this empty game object Stomp Effect. And I'll give it a little visual. Since it is an empty game object, there's nothing to see. So I'll give it a little visual cue of a little purple dot, right? The gizmo's on, you can see the purple dot. And now I could focus in on him or her, and then I could add an effect called the particle effect, particle system. First off, the effect is spilling out these squares, and they seem to be going in a direction, that direction. So that is the shape. But there's other shapes like a hemisphere, and I'm using the Alt key. Let's turn that around. Rotation on this red line here, that's the x-axis. Minus 90 degrees, we'll put it up. The lifetime of one of these particles, which is 5 seconds right now, I'm going to turn it down to 1 second. Let me make the speed 3. So let's change the actual thing that's being rendered for the particle. Let's look in the render component here, and the render mode is billboard. I'm going to render a mesh. You can't really tell. I better use a material. Let's use a default diffuse, a default material here. Let's see, the alignment of the rendering is to the view, so that means they're facing the camera, but let's have them face the direction they're moving in. All of these are a size of 1. That's the size of my player, but I want them to look like little particles, the start size. A random between two constants, between 0.01 and 0.02, 3. 3's too big. 2.5. Then there's this other thing here. See, if I move this, then the whole thing moves. The particles move too. I want something that happens that the simulation space is world instead. And then what happens is when I move stuff, see, the particles, they remain where they got emitted. They don't follow my character. I like it like that better. So here's the emission. And right now it's emitting 10. Let's try 100. That's too many. Let's try 30. That's all right. You know, the particles themselves, I could have gravity affect them right here with the gravity modifier, and they kind of go up and then fall back down. Or I could have reverse gravity and they're getting sucked up. So let me just do a little bit of gravity there that they kind of go down. So here it's just at regular speed of 1. I can increase the speed. And how long it keeps emitting, I'm on a loop. Let's turn off the loop. Let me say 0.7. Size over lifetime. So we have a graph here. Instead of me having to press over and over, I'm going to leave the loop on. Click on the curve itself. From big to little, let's do color over lifetime. I think I'll just press the bar here. All right, so in the end, I want the alpha to be 0. Let me do rotation. Let me click that on. 45. Look how fast. If I put it up to a higher number, like 120, let me put it back to not looping. So let's see, if I were to hit the floor, you get something like that. I'm going to just drag and drop this here into the asset window to turn it into a prefab. Okay, that means now that's just like an object I could just add to. So here, the one that's actually in the scene, I could delete it. Now that I have it as a prefab, I could put them here, here. I could put as many of them as I want wherever I want. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on the player actually. So the player script, I want it to have a stomp effect that it could play when I hit the ground. Let's have the player script ask for what stomp effect it's going to use. Particle system prefab. And at first it's going to equal null. I'm just going to try it this way here. And now you can see here, since I made it public, it's letting me tell it what to use for the. So I'm going to drag and drop it and say that's the effect I want it to use. So now let's get to using it. First thing I think I have to do is I have to make an instance of the stomp effect for my player to use. So I'll say private particle system PS equals null. And then in the start function, I'll say PS equals instantiate prefab stomp. And the parent of this is going to be my player object. So I'll say this dot transform. I want to make sure that the offset ps dot transform dot local position. Local position is, it means in relation to the parent. So I want it to be right with the parent. So the transform local position is going to equal vector 3 dot 0. What I want to do is when I jump and land, when I land, I want it to do the stomp effect. Well, how do I know when I landed? It's going to be a collision event with the floor. I'm going to make another event here, private void on. So as I start typing on, these are all the events that the model behavior from Unity engine is going to capture. I have on collision enter. I want to use on collision enter, and it'll tell me the object right here that I collided with. Right now in the game, there's only two objects. There's me and there's the plane. So the only object I collide with is the plane. So I'll say particle system dot play. Hit the floor and the particles spray out. Now they're kind of spraying out from the middle of my character. I want them to spray out from the bottom. Remember that offset I said when I created the particle system here, and I said that the local position of it was just smack in the middle of the parent of the player. I don't want it to be in the middle of the player. I want it to be at the bottom of the player. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to get the bounds, the rendering bounds of the player object. This dot get component, the renderer dot bounds is I put my mouse over it, and you see it tells me it's a bounds object. So I'm just going to make a variable bounds bd equals the bounds, and let's see, bd dot extents, the extents of the bounding box. This is always half of the size of the bounds. Ugh. Extents dot y minus to go down. I don't know. I'm trying out different things here. Which one's going to work? All right, let's see. And I press play, press boom, and there, that's in the right spot. Now I could turn off the gizmos so I don't see them. And there, I got an effect of a stomp when I touch the floor. There's only one more thing I want to add in, and that's a sound. All right, so let's go to the internet. I'm going to go to Chrome and open up a Chrome window here. And I'm going to go somewhere where I could get some free sound effects. So freesound.org is a place I get some free sound effects. I kind of logged in with an email address so I could download sounds. And I'm going to look for a sound stomp. So here's some stomp sounds. Let's hear what this one sounds like. Hey, let's just use that one right off the bat. So I'm going to click there. I'm going to download it. Now, I know where my project is, so I'm going to go to my project assets folder. My project is here in Unity, cat on a shelf, assets, scenes, oops, not scenes, just the assets folder. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a folder here called resources. And in that folder, I'm going to put the stomp sound, but I'll just call it stomp.wave. Save it. Okay. So I come back here and it shows me the resources folder and it shows a stomp sound. Here's the player. I could drag and drop the sound right there on the player, and then an audio source component is added. I won't play it on awake, all right, but there's a sound added as a component of player. And then in the script, what I'll do is I'll get a pointer to that, private audio source stomp. I'll say sound stomp. Oopsie, what did I press? I think I pressed something. First it equals null. And then here, just the way I got a pointer to the rigid body, I'll just get a pointer to the sound stomp. Sound stomp equals this dot get component audio source. Okay, since I have one audio source component, that will get me that component, that one sound, and it'll play it for me when I tell it to. So here's the sound stomp. I turned off play on awake, which means it's just going to play right away. So it doesn't play right away, but here I get a pointer to it, and then right here when I hit the floor and I play the particle effect, I'll also play sound stomp. Play. Okay, so save that and let's see how that works. Press play, and now I should be able to move, jump, and stomp. Now I did notice something just now. When I press play, let me just kind of bring this guy up a little bit. I'm going to press play and I'm going to see the stomp happen before I hit the ground. You see that? There was a little stomp effect there. So let me go back to my prefab for the stomp. There must be something here that has a play on awake also. And here it is, play on awake. I'm going to turn that off so it doesn't play when the game starts. Save. Now press play. And there you go. Only happens when I touch the floor. All right, there we go. So in the next video, we'll see what happens in the next video. We're going to add more to the game.